Hi, we're Nia and Mary-Anne from Seren Health Coaching. We are metabolic health coaches who are passionate about good metabolic health for everyone. We also love to chat about all things health and to share as much information as we can with people who want to make changes to their lifestyle but aren't quite sure where to start. We're going to release a new episode every Friday where we talk about a different aspect of health. So do subscribe and let us know what you think. We'd also love to know what you're interested in too. So if there's something that you'd like us to have a chat about, do send us a message and we'll do our best to cover it soon. Hello, Mary-Anne.
Hi, Nia. How are you at this very busy time of year, particularly for
Yes.
you? It seems to pass me by a little bit here, so I'm
Well, I
lucky in a way.
realised, I realised yesterday that it was a week till Christmas Day. That was a bit of a shock.
Oh, I know, I know.
I know.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Anyway, I know you're busier than me, but what we gonna talk about?
Yes, well, we're going to talk about how to navigate celebrations when you're trying to make healthier habits because this time of year, obviously, there's a
Yep.
lot of celebrations, there's a lot of parties, Christmas events, Christmas do's, and I think we've both learnt over the years how to do it in a way that makes us feel happy that
Mm,
we haven't overindulged, but
mm.
also not guilty. And we want to pass that on to other people because we don't want you all to be sitting there on the 27th of December thinking, oh, I feel
I've
terrible.
ruined everything.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
wanna ruin everything. Yeah.
No, and
So
don't we always laugh about people who say they can't start healthy habits anytime in November or December because
it's
Christmas is going to ruin
Christmas!
everything? So we want to tell you, you can start anytime. Actually, it's interesting, and
Yes.
we have learned some interesting things. Because remember, celebrations are not all about eating and drinking. They
Yes.
have become so over time in our affluent world.
So we've learnt how to celebrate without overdoing things, and you are gonna talk about developing new habits.
So you might find when you're developing new habits, of course, that they're still not in your autopilot. And the problem is this makes celebrations more challenging. And that's one of the
Mm.
problems, I think. So that cognitive brain of yours, which has decided that it's definitely not going to, I don't know, overeat, drink too much, indulge in sort of different ways. You've got different goals, but that's only 5% of your brain, remember. So there's 95
Mm.
lurking down there that's programmed to think otherwise. So
Yeah.
this is one of the problems.
95% is going, "It's Christmas, let's eat all the pigs in
Yes,
blankets."
we always do. Yes.
Quite, yeah. So the first tip is to remember that celebrations are not all about eating and drinking. No matter what the Waitrose Christmas advert will tell you, other
Mm,
supermarkets are of course available. But I think we have become real consumers
mm,
and almost like if you don't we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about if you don't have that Christmas pudding or that
mm,
special treat that has come out brand new this year, then you can't have Christmas. And I think if you look at it a different way and we concentrate on our special time with family and friends and that connection and relationship, that's
mm.
that's the thing we should be looking forward to. But we've kind of mixed
Yeah.
the message and said, you'll only be happy if you have a luxury mince pie, which of course is lovely,
Or
but it's
yeah,
not going to fill
or
that goal.
piles of presents or whatever. And
Yeah.
I mean that has really changed over time. And I suppose we should also remember all the people out there who are wary of these sort of times of year because
Yeah.
they aren't necessarily part and connected to family and friends and community. So I think it's a particularly tricky time
It's
for
even
lots
worse
of
in a way
people.
because they're kind of they've got their own reasons for not wishing to celebrate or having, had a
Yeah.
time when they have felt it's difficult. And then it's just everywhere. The hype is
Yes.
incredible.
It's
Um,
very alienating, and I'm sure it really
yeah.
underlines their loneliness, sadness, or whatever the sort of context of this is.
Yeah.
I was watching period drama recently, which was terrible actually with my daughter. Um, it was called Tessa
Okay.
the D'Urbervilles. I don't know if
I
you
have
know the
never,
story, but it doesn't
I
end well.
don't.
But anyway,
Okay.
at at the wedding, which eventually happens, and it takes
Hmm.
some challenging times to get to this wedding.
Okay.
What sort of struck me was that the whole village was obviously part of the celebration. There was a sort of local church, and it was all about the marriage and
Yes.
nothing to do with either. I'm sure there was some feasting and dancing and all of that,
Mm.
but there was no piles of presents, and people had very little. and it was
Yeah.
all about the marriage and getting the couple married and off on their cart to wherever they were going. And it did
Mm,
strike me how differently we do it now in our world, that it's
yeah.
enormously consumer like
Yeah,
now
and it's
to
almost like
celebrate.
if you don't celebrate in this particular way, and it's not just Christmas, it's weddings in
Yes,
particular,
all
baby
that.
showers, or
Oh
and
yeah.
unless you do all of this,
Mm.
you aren't celebrating correctly, and it's all about how you celebrate rather than the fact you are
Well, you're
celebrating. It's
sort of
very mixed up.
you're showing off your ability to afford things, I suppose. I
Hmm.
particularly hate all those helium-filled balloons, but let's not talk about that. It's not really to do with health. But I've
Have a
got a bit of
slight
a thing
detour
for
into.
them. But what we want to talk about really is that we've learned a few things about navigating celebrations over the years, and
Yeah.
we want to give you some of our top tips.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the best top tips we've ever used is it's all in the planning.
Yeah.
So before you go out, if you know that going for a Christmas meal with a
Yeah.
work or having a work do, and you're checking the menu, you're
Yeah.
thinking about what you're going to have to drink, you consider practicing saying no. And I know that sounds absolutely bizarre, but it's your boundary, and you're more than welcome to keep that one. And nobody else can force you to do anything you don't want to do.
No.
And whatever they say, quite frankly, stuff them, because it's your choice. And,
Mm.
considering the social pressures, the people who are going to say certain things. But you will feel so much better if you stick to the boundaries you wanted to stick to than if you let them convince you
So
otherwise.
planning is, one really it's as you say, it's like practicing. So saying,
Yeah.
I'm not going to drink a bottle of bubbly. I'm going to have one glass and then I'm going to drink water or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You've made that plan. Then
Mm.
it's to practice. And
Mm.
it takes a bit of practice, I'd
It
say. I
does.
mean, you
Yeah, it
find
does.
yourself sliding into old habits pretty fast and pretty easily if you're not careful. I still think that's fine. It is all about the practice. As long as you feel you can reflect later and think, I wonder if I could have done that differently. And
Yeah.
also look at the sort of pressures that made the slide, which is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
And also at home, I really learned that I was providing my family with these traditional treats that nobody actually liked.
Yes.
But I felt this enormous pressure to produce the, I don't know, Christmas cake, Christmas pudding that was lit up and all of that, and nobody actually liked any of it. So we were often left to eat that through the whole of January, which wasn't great
Oh,
for us actually.
no.
So I think, don't feel you can't change traditions actually. And
No.
we've done a lot of changing, and we've got a much healthier way, I think, of celebrating, which is also still really delicious and indulgent and,
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing is to stop or to be wary about perfectionism, because I
Mm,
think you can try too hard.
yeah.
And it really doesn't work. So you kind of have to put it all into perspective. This is often just one meal or one
Yes.
day. And whatever you do doesn't really
No,
matter as long as you go back on where you were the next day and
exactly.
just don't feel guilty about it. So often we see people with this very black and white, like,
Mm.
okay, well, I had a mince pie. That's it. Now I'm done. I can never be
And then
healthy
they
again.
can't get back on the train. It seems almost as if
Yeah,
they can't, they've given up because they've messed it up. It's so easy if you can just say, okay, it was a day. I
it was
mucked
a
it
day.
up. I
Yeah.
had 10 mince pies, but it's fine. It's one day.
Big deal, yeah. And
Big
I think
deal.
I love the 80/20 rule, which I think a
Yes.
lot of people use in a very different way to how it's intended. So I'm going to explain it in a bit
Okay,
more how
cool.
it's supposed to. So 80% of the time, you do the absolute best you can.
Yeah.
You make the best possible decisions, the
Yeah.
healthiest choices that you can, and that relates to everything. So you
Yeah.
look after your brain, you do something to
Yeah.
nurture your brain to look after yourself. You do some exercise, you choose nice healthy meals, and you nourish your body, and then you get plenty of rest, right? That's like your
Yeah.
80% of the time. That's your
Yeah.
healthy baseline. And 20% of the time,
Yeah.
you have a glass of wine, you have a mince
Yeah.
pie, and you sit
You
down in front of
really
the
enjoy
TV.
it.
Yes, and when you do, you really savor that. But you
Mindfully eat or drink something really
just
special.
yeah, there's no
Yeah.
point in having a mince pie if you're gonna have a really naff one
Or
and
shovel it down because you
shovel
feel
it down so
guilty.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Enjoy it and just
Yeah.
be real with yourself about what it is. And
Yeah.
that's the 20% of the time.
Yeah.
So I like to think of it as, say, 6 days a week, you do the best you possibly can. And on the
Yeah.
seventh day, maybe it's a little bit looser in terms of what you
Yeah.
do. But that one day isn't going to
No.
spoil the
You
whole
still
rest.
got the 6 good days that have counted up. So you're not going to ruin all 6 days with your one day. Yeah.
No, if you did it the other way around and had 6
Yes.
terrible days
Yes, and
and
do it
one
one
healthy
day. Yeah.
day,
That might not work.
no, that will not work. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, the major
Well, isn't
messages
that the
is,
Monday isn't that the Monday bit? Like, every Monday you restart.
yeah, you restart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but by Tuesday you don't.
yeah,
Yeah, we've all been there, haven't we?
yeah.
Same with
So,
exercise.
same with
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. So,
Yeah, same with
basically,
everything.
enjoy the time for what it
Yes.
is and
Yes.
don't let your brain tell you that you failed. You haven't failed. You just enjoyed a special occasion. And remember, you planned to enjoy that special occasion.
Yes,
You've
which is
given
even
yourself
better.
permission.
So,
So don't then
yes.
go back and tell yourself off about it because you
No.
said it's Christmas Day. I'm going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
you choose your routes, but there's the other thing to mention that certainly we've learned over time is that social pressures are very real, and they're both extrinsic and intrinsic. So there's that social pressure, where somebody says, "I'm going to buy you a drink," and you say, "Oh yes, I'll just have some fizzy water, please," and they say, "Oh no, 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 you need a proper drink," and you feel almost that you're going to spoil people's fun because you're not having the drink. That's very weird. But
Mm.
I think once you analyze that, you start to realize it is absolutely all right to say you would like or not like the drink, but you
Yeah.
don't sort of feel that at the time. The
And there's
other
only
is
so
that,
many times you can say I'm pregnant.
yeah, yeah, or I'm on antibiotics. We used to laugh about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm either pregnant or on antibiotics. Yeah, that's both those have worn off
I
because we
think,
don't like killing our microbiomes with the antibiotics, and now we can't get
yeah. And I mean, honestly, I think,
pregnant.
can you imagine if I said, no, sorry, not drinking because I'm pregnant? People would be like, what?
What? Well, no, you'd still get away with it, but I think it might be a bit tricky for me.
It would be a big thing though, wouldn't it? It would be a big can of
Yeah.
worms. I'd rather just say
Well,
I'm
that would be a can
antibiotic.
of worms. Your husband might be a bit surprised.
He'd be very surprised. We
But
are
there's
not
also
having any
the
more.
the intrinsic pressures which come from, as I say, feeling that you're not fun if you're not doing things that make other people feel good. So I often do it with wine. I have friends who don't drink at all. I drink really minimally. My husband doesn't drink much, which means it often it often befalls me to have a drink with somebody because
Yeah,
I sort of feel like they're gonna open a bottle of wine and have to drink the whole bottle on their own because
yeah,
nobody's drinking, and it's completely ridiculous, but it is quite intrinsic. So pleasing people, making people happy, this is part of the whole deal, isn't it? This is
yeah,
so I think it doesn't matter whether you do or you don't, it's recognizing that that's useful to you.
yeah. And then at this time of year, it's always worth mentioning that a lot of people have quite complex family dynamics, which is
Oh,
so tricky to
yes,
navigate.
yes.
And, that's quite another layer of challenge.
Mm,
And also, really does affect your enjoyment of a day, and you're trying to make sure everybody
mm,
else is having a good time to the expense of yourself
mm.
because you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or put anyone off, or and
Sometimes you
it's
need wine to get through these occasions almost, that's what it feels like.
it
I
does.
mean, it seems like a fairly putrid excuse, but I think it's probably not uncommon.
No, no, and I think ultimately it's doing the best you can on in the situation of which you've been dealt. This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
this is one day a year. It's not the end of the world.
And don't you think often that women get, lumbered with the I don't know, the sort of perception of the pressure about keeping everybody happy. So
Yeah.
I don't like to genderize it, and I'm sure there's lots of men out there who'd feel the same. But it's that everyone needs to be happy in the family, and it often is a
It's the
result of a
yeah.
lot of pre programming. It's
Hmm.
not necessarily pressure from other people. It's more your own intrinsic
Help.
sort of
Yeah.
programming.
I wonder sometimes, is it because women are, and again, I don't want to put this on, and
No.
men may be the same, but maybe I feel this more, maybe I feel like I notice it more, but then
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't asked my husband, he might feel the same.
Yeah.
But you feel that you need to, you pick up more on the subtle cues,
I think so.
and
I
so
do
therefore
think so.
you kind of have to rein.
It's partly
things
to
in.
do with roles in society, and it's complicated. But I do think we have more radar about everyone being happy, because that's sort of part of that role of bringing up children and families and
Mm.
complexities.
Yep.
So, lastly, let's say, be very kind to yourself. I mean,
Yes,
in all
please
of
do.
this, to be honest, whatever happens, even if you eat 12 mince pies in a row and drink 2 bottles of champagne, it's all
Mary-Anne,
redeemable.
have you been sitting in my front room and
uh,
I've not noticed you?
I, I, I have been known to do some terrible things, but we won't go into that. But it's all redeemable. It
It
is
is.
just a small slip, and
Yeah.
it's quite, as long as you reflect. Um, and think about it, because I do it much less often now
Yeah.
because I feel more empowered, I suppose,
Yeah.
to make decisions about what suits me and my health and how I feel. So I think I'm much less likely now to need to please other people. And that's, I suppose, our top tip. Be kind to yourself, and um, be nice. It's
Mm.
one day, one celebration, and it's complicated.
Yeah. And most of all, just enjoy the fellowship of the occasion. Enjoy the time
Yes.
spent with the people you love, whether it be friends or family, or whether it just be a totally new situation that you find
Mm,
yourself in and you make some new friends. I think it's the time when you kind of focus less on the things that are available to you and more on the people and the connections and the time spent.
yes.
I mean, who amongst us wouldn't give our eye teeth
Mm.
to have some of that time back with people that we loved who aren't here
Oh, yeah.
anymore. Special time, precious time.
I suppose, there's that lovely, we'll talk about it on another podcast, the regrets of the dying. It's a really interesting little lessons for the living, but
Yeah, what the ones that
nobody's,
say
yeah,
they want to
no,
work more. Yeah.
nobody, yeah, that one. Nobody's on their deathbed worrying about whether they bought the right Lego set for their child, or whether he was happy enough at his, seventh birthday. But they will really, think about the connections they made with people in their lives, and that they
Yeah.
were probably, of all the things you do, the most important. So let's try and consume less, and be kind to ourselves, and enjoy the fellowship of these
Mm,
occasions without the huge pressure
yeah.
of keeping
Because they
everybody
won't
happy.
yeah, they won't remember it. Do you know one of the best presents that
Mm,
I ever had as a child, and one that I
mm,
remember to this day,
mm.
and it's so innocuous, almost as if to not be a present.
Yeah.
But my nana recorded a story on a tape, because I'm that old,
Oh,
on a cassette
oh,
tape, and
yeah.
my dad helped her out, and he had a little xylophone, and he would go ding.
Oh,
When you hear
oh,
the ding, it's time to turn the page.
oh,
And
that's so
I
lovely.
I must have only been about 3 or 4, but I can
Yeah.
remember that and the joy that reading that book me and my sister had together. It's one of the best
Oh,
presents I've ever had. I
that's
just
sweet. And that's the
so
connectedness, you see.
that's and her
Yeah.
voice, her
Yeah.
storytelling,
Yeah,
and just the
lovely.
love that went into that present is worth more to
Yeah.
me than a diamond necklace, all of that stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, if you see my little pile of things I've kept from my children, it's those things that matter. And one day I'll be looking at in the care home while I, you know,
You're not going in a care home. You can
drink
come and
and
live with
smoke
me.
and whatever else
Oh yeah, when
to
when you become that
ease
voracious
my way
cigarette smoker
out.
again.
Yeah. But,
Well,
those are the things that matter.
you'll get kicked out of the care home for setting
I
off the fire
know.
alarm.
It's true. It's true. I'll probably tent in the woods. I don't know. We'll
I'll come
see.
visit.
We'll see.
Anyway, wonderful.
Right.
Well, we wish you a very, very happy
We do.
Christmas.
We do.
And we look forward to talking to you again in 2025. We thank you so much for listening to us in 2024. We started this
Yes,
podcast on a bit of a punt.
we
We
did.
weren't sure if anyone would actually listen.
About a
So if
year ago, in fact, and just
it was,
not that long. Yeah, about a year
yeah.
ago.
So thank you so much for listening. We hope that you've benefited from listening to our little
Mm,
chats. We hope we've inspired some of you to make some of your own changes, and we do
yeah,
hope that you'll be with us again. We're going to take a few weeks off, but we'll be
yeah.
back in January.
You'll hear from us again in January when we've picked ourselves up on the other side.
Indeed. Indeed.
It is a busy time of year. Have a lovely time, everybody, and see you in 2025.
Indeed. Take care.
See you then. Bye.